All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the show. I am excited today to talk about something and someone I always love talking about. And that's someone who left their corporate job to pursue their passion, explore their expertise to serve others, and craft their own consultancy. And they did it by getting out on LinkedIn. So today is another one of those How I Branded This episodes. And I'm excited today to introduce you to Stephen Arthur George, aka Stephen. And he is someone who has left corporate, done all the things in the last year or two, and he's going to tell us all about his story, all about his struggles, his wins, how he's doing it on LinkedIn, and tips for you too. Because what better way to learn than to hear it straight from someone who's like 2 years ahead of us, right? So without further ado, welcome to the show, Stephen. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Michelle. No, it's an honor to be here as well. And I'm excited to share a bit of my story with everyone as well, and hoping it inspires a few along the way that are listening in. So thank you.
Absolutely. You know, the Great Resignation has been something, and that's not really why we're here, but you were kind of a little bit before all that. And maybe you didn't leave because of whatever, but for those who don't really know you yet or haven't discovered you yet or followed you on LinkedIn, tell us a little bit about who you are and your story, and then we're going to get into your entrepreneurial journey. All right?
For sure. So I'm originally from Michigan in the US, and my career started in financial services, which I spent a few years down, or a little over 5 years in Nashville, Tennessee, before I moved to where I live now, which is in Lisbon, Portugal. So far away from home where I originally started, but moved out here in 2017 to get my MBA. And then after that, actually entered into the medical cannabis industry, which is quite a large, globally expanding industry, even outside of what's going on back home in the States. But what's ironic is I used LinkedIn to get the job in the cannabis industry. So it's actually, there was a company here called Tilray, one of the larger global companies in the space, and they were building a facility here. And I actually found the CEO on LinkedIn and reached out to him directly on LinkedIn, and with some communicating and a couple other people getting involved, I got an interview and met the CRO of the company here in Portugal, and then spent some time with them, and then used LinkedIn to journey out of that company as well. So while I was there building a brand of myself, getting some more exposure in the cannabis space, and then getting to the point where then I had the courage to then exit the company and do something on my own. And that's what we've been doing now for almost a year now.
Oh, it's been a year. I thought it was 2 years. So yeah, well, that's a great story. So I'm going to really dive deep into that. Okay. You moved to another country and got your MBA, got this dream job for several years. But what led you to, you said, get the courage? Let's break that down. What was your mindset back then to realize, the other side, entrepreneurship, looks really good? Because you write about a lot of that on LinkedIn.
You know, it's a great question. And I think it goes back to just something that's always something I've had inside, right? And it's more this drive to want to do something more, not so much on your own, but just wanting to call the shots, wanting to take your own decisions, wanting to write your own path, more or less, right? Instead of always following the company's direction. And I think what's super interesting about this is that when I got into the cannabis space professionally, I've been personally part of the cannabis space for a long time, for a decade or so. So when I got into the professional space, then I got to do some very unique things, and it really helped me just build my brand in general in the industry because of the size of the company. But at the same time, it was something that I was so passionate about that when I misaligned with the company, I just couldn't do it. And you're just like, this doesn't make any sense, and no one's listening to me. So then it was just like a internal battle of like knowing all along, I've always wanted to be on my own, always wanted to make my own path, if you will. But until I got into a space where I really could connect with something I was passionate about, then came the confidence behind that to say, okay, Steve, that courage you've had, it's been there all along. Now it's just aligning a bit better with what you're actually doing because you're working in an industry that you enjoy. And then things started to click. And that's where I then found that courage that you mentioned to then go out on my own, let's say.
Oh, I love that. You sound a lot like me. Like back in when I was in my 20s, like right after when I got to grad school, I knew that I wanted to one day have my own. Back then it was a PR firm because I had my master's in PR, but now it was just a consultancy. When I was in my previous role, I waited 5 years. What you're describing now about the freedom and listening and wanting to grow and do new things, I did the same thing you're talking about. And I sure hope it didn't take you 5 years, like spinning the wheels. I wrote about that today, actually, on LinkedIn. How long did it take you and what took you? Like, how did you exit? And then what did you do right after that?
It's so funny you say that too, because I was just looking at it today and there was someone else that posted. Actually, there was a comment on my post today about Gary V. Okay. And so a lot of people know Gary Vaynerchuk was someone that I followed, right? And it took me about the same amount of time, Michelle. I think it was 5 years of following in the content, seeing it every day. And it fascinates me. And that's why, again, I thank you for having me on and for doing this, because like what I've realized is that, yeah, I'm a different person than I was 5 years ago. Okay. I don't want to say that like we don't change and evolve and that I haven't grown. Okay. That would be dishonest. But that courage and that strength and believing in myself was always there. And I think it was like you said, it was there from when I left university, that feeling inside, that was your intuition telling you you can do it. But for some reason you just kept, I don't know what it was for you, but I kept shoving it down and not listening to it and waiting for my employers, waiting for my family, waiting for my friends to say, Steve, you're great. Like I was waiting for validation from everyone else except for myself.
That is exactly what I said today. You don't need permission. We all look and think this magical thing's going to fall down from the sky or someone's going to say, hey, today's your day. You should go do it. No, it doesn't happen like that. Or you don't need perfection because perfection gets the worst of us. Yeah, I knew it. I actually got bitten by the bug. I know exactly the moment I decided the actual date was July 29th, 2015, actually. And I read this article about this person who had this amazing online business. And I'm like, that is what I'm going to do. And went on so many rabbit holes. I mean, I probably spent the whole internet world, the equivalent of traveling the world in every country in America, because I just went from boop, boop, boop all over the place. I did credentials and courses and certifications, thinking I needed all of that to get out there, right? And you just said, no. But so we're hard learners, right? I mean, it takes us a while to learn. So I just finally took the jump. And is that how you did it? Just one day you said, I'm resigning, I'm doing it without a plan in place? Or did you have something on the side beforehand?
I would say it's a mixture, right? And the reason I say that is because it was actually the LinkedIn, just creating content on LinkedIn that I think started to ignite the flame a little bit and give me that last little bit of that last push out the door. Like you said, we wanted it all along, but I didn't really know where to go. And it's funny, when I was back in Tennessee, I was always waiting for that great idea, like when's that great idea gonna come or whatever it's gonna be. And it never came because I was just hoping for something, right? And that was never just going to fall into my hands. So when I was actually working in the cannabis industry, I noticed that, and working for a larger company, I noticed that people were finding interest in it. Okay. So this is what the first thing was. I just noticed that, like, okay, this is an interesting topic. People are following along or reaching out just to connect, and I'm not even posting anything. Very rarely I would repost something from the company page or whatever. But so that's what kind of ignited it, is I started to see some interest, which then led me to actually start creating content before I left my employer. And I think this is very important for people to understand and listen as well, is that you can create content while still being employed. And everyone knew I was doing it. The director knew I was doing it. Everyone else on my team knew. Now, yeah, was there a couple times where people complained and had something to say? Yeah, when you're crossing the line, or someone can help you understand that. And as long as you're not talking about private information or anything that's not publicly disclosed by the company, you're free to talk. So that's what really helped me then transition, because then I already started talking with people, just networking in the messages and the comments, and just starting to see, like, okay, people find value in what I have to say. And again, giving me that extra confidence and that extra say courage right at the end, but you take that final step. So I think I help myself a bit instead of jumping and going into the abyss. I'm always a calculated risk person, right? So I try to give myself the best possible chance.
That's a really good way to do it. A calculated risk. So for anyone listening and you're hearing my story and Stephen's story, you could go out either way. So you found something you're interested in. Not only were you interested in, but you're working. So it was a natural flow. So you got some traction and courage there. And then you just knew it's time. Now, for me, I always had a side thing where I'd do some consulting on the side, but nothing I ever explored. It just came in my lap. But I made this drawn out resignation thing. And then I finally announced and started. And one of the things I regret, and even those 5 years, was, had I known better, really, I didn't really know better to do it, was like you did, was creating content, becoming known in your niche, right? And marketing or branding or whatever I was doing. And I was in B2B professional services and insurance and legal, like a far cry kind of from where I am now. So that's why if you're listening to this and you're thinking, this sounds like something I may want to do, start now. Right? Start now and just find something you're passionate, expertise on, you want to be known for. And LinkedIn is a place. So I love that you did that. And you did that for what, a couple of weeks, months? How long before you did that official jump, Stephen?
Good question. I think it was about 6 months.
Okay. That was great.
Yeah.
So you did the jump, but you never left LinkedIn because you saw, and this is why I always advocate for LinkedIn, because if you don't know that LinkedIn has changed, if you think it's a resume recruiter site, and they don't pay me to say this, I just see people like me and you and clients and countless others who are just finding their way and their business and all the things on LinkedIn. It is a place now to create and find community and connection. So you jumped in like that. And then tell us a little bit about your LinkedIn story and how you started, your consultancy and all the things you're doing now. Tell us how that worked for you so far, because it's been over a year and a half now, or 2 years?
A year since I resigned, because I resigned in May last year. But then I've been creating this LinkedIn journey. I think heavy LinkedIn journey has been going on for a year and a half. And then I've been on LinkedIn all along. So I think that's the funny story about it, is that because I think people see LinkedIn as two different things, okay, traditionally. One of those is a place to find a job. The other one is it's a lead generation tool that many sales organizations use, right? And this is where my background's always been, in sales, business development. So in financial services is where I first started using LinkedIn, but I was the person that everyone disliked, let's say, because I was the person that was reaching out, just finding people, financial advisors, having my spiel, connection requests straight in for the phone call, like just hard close, and just playing a numbers game, right? And just hoping that you'll get some bites. And that's where I started. And for all those who are in sales using LinkedIn, that's not the way that I would recommend using the platform. So hopefully you can learn a little bit from this as well. But that's where my journey started. And then throughout my career, I've always used it as, like I said, more of a business development tool. And then when I got the job using LinkedIn, then I realized I just went directly to the CEO of a large company. And this is a busy guy that's got a lot going on, but I got to him. And maybe he didn't answer me, but someone else did. And that means he told that person to talk or figure like, hey, this Steve guy's bugging me, like someone do something about it. So that's when it really was the first click, and my mind started to change on LinkedIn. I was like, this is much more powerful than just a lead generation tool or a find a job tool. Okay. There's a lot more to this platform. Then I spent the time with the company, realizing some of that attention, realizing the ability to network, and especially in a global industry that I was working in. So I was working with tons of people back in North America and Canada and Israel and Germany and Spain and Malta. And so how do people find you? They find you on LinkedIn, especially when it's more business oriented at first in these more corporate spaces, especially if that's your target that you're going for as a consultant or individual. This is where you find those people. They're not on Instagram every day or TikTok, or it's not where they are. And I mean, people can argue with me, but they're just not there. So if in this level, that's where you need to be. And then I saw that people were creating content. And those that were creating content were doing well and having great conversations, and people were showing how they were growing. And so the wheels started spinning more and more. And then I really dove in, right, and started creating and got me to where I am now. But the last point, just a very recent thing over on Sunday, I was with some friends. And I always tell my friends, okay, and I'm 33 years old, okay? All of my friends, especially here in Europe, it's a bit different, but like nobody is on LinkedIn. Some of them have the account just for jobs or whatever, but like no one is using it the way I'm using it. And every time, I'm not kidding, Michelle, I just sat there and I look at the sky and I just say, thank you. Just thank you. Because no one's doing it. And so this is where I play. I've always had this business first mentality. I strive for my business passions in life. So it's like, this is my playground. I absolutely love being here. I love the other kids that are here to play as well. And yeah, eventually other people figure out how powerful it is, but hopefully it takes them a long time.
Yeah, I know, right? That's a great story. I advocate for LinkedIn all the time, but maybe I should be quiet about it, right? But here's the thing. It takes a commitment like you and I are doing. I mean, to show up, create content, and build connection and community. It's not going to be for everyone, right? I mean, you really have to have a different mindset, but I know the positive rewards, not just for business and getting clients, but I mean, I have met, and I'm sure you have too, friends, connections, opportunities all over the world, right? And the community that I've cultivated and the friends I've met, I mean, I see them more than I see sometimes my in real life friends, right? So it is this own little ecosystem that is truly supportive, and it can not only support you personally, but professionally too. So I absolutely love how you said that story. But let's talk about what you're doing now. So you're still on LinkedIn creating content, but I've seen a lot of your content really focus on the personal brand and really tout that. So tell me about that. How has that evolved in the last year and a half? And what's your take on building your brand? And what would you recommend for others thinking of doing the same?
Yeah. Well, first off, for thinking of doing the same is you don't have to have it figured out from day one. I think that's the important part, right? And I wrote about this last week. I think you need to find somewhere where you can start. And you're not going to start with something that you're not knowledgeable about or not comfortable talking about or feel that you have some type of authority to be able to, whatever it is, right? That's where I say you always have to start there, but it's not where you finish. And the reason I say that is because if you look at my journey on LinkedIn, even to write something, even the first piece of content I put out, like that I actually wrote my own post, was after listening to a song, and it was a reggae song, and I had some inspiration. I was out walking and I was just like, okay, screw it, I'm going to do it. I actually wrote about this on Friday. So it was already in the cannabis space and I was already confident in that space, but I wasn't confident with my writing, what exactly I wanted to talk about. So I would like listen to a podcast and then I would take one topic that they hit on in the podcast and I would just expand on that. So that was like my crutch, I call it, to help me get the content out there and be there. But through the journey of the last 15 months of writing every single day and engaging with other individuals and seeing what other people have to talk about and talking with people on the phone and setting up Zoom calls and all other kinds of stuff, I found myself evolving. And so now if you look at my content from 15 months ago, it was primarily all cannabis, where now I talk about cannabis about once a week. So you can tell it's very evolved, but the cannabis was my safe place. It was my safe place where I knew I had the confidence to talk about it and that I could show up there every day. But then once I started to show up and realize, I said, Steve, you have more to talk about and you have more to say. So you're going to have to say it. And then I started to talk about more stuff. And I think the whole transition went more from, okay, now I can start to talk a little bit more about sales and marketing and business development. But then that evolved into just this more evolution of personal branding. And I think that's also personal development, right? In a sense, because I think as you build your personal brand, you're developing yourself as an individual and really focusing on you and trying to give the best of you to the world. And I think that is personal development in a nutshell, right? So for me, they overlap a bit, but that's where I've gone. And why I focus a bit more on personal branding now is because we all have something to say. And I'll share this quick story that before I left financial services, you said you had a moment in 2015 where it clicked for you. Well, I think it was 2016, summer of 2016, where it clicked for me. And I was golfing with my former partner, who was the outside sales guy. I was the inside sales guy. And every year, every quarter, it would be wholesaler of the quarter. And at the end of the year, he would get the awards and wholesaler of the year and red jacket and everything. But one day I was like, nobody knows this. Like, nobody knows that my friend and my partner was amazing and that he was winning. Like, everyone inside the four walls of the company knew, but no one else knew outside of his close family and friends. And I was like, this is wrong. I've learned so much from this guy. Other people need to learn this. Why is it just about the company and I'm getting lucky because I'm working with him and got to be his partner for these 3.5 years? It's like, why am I the only one that gets to learn this from him? So I just realized, and that's like I said, when it all clicked, that you're more than those four walls. And the only way anyone's ever going to know it is if you tell them. And so you have to use platforms like this or else no one's going to know.
I love that. Yeah, visibility is not vanity. It's being valuable and opening doors and opportunities and connections to the people who need you. So that is such a great story. I absolutely love you've detailed your evolution. And I was thinking, I believe we both started posting on LinkedIn around the same time. Was yours December 2020 and I was December 31st. And I do remember we must have connected sometime in 2021 early, but I do remember those first posts. You would talk about it and it's all fine. And you're still doing it. It's great, but you're opening up a wider opportunity. And also too, you've grown and evolved and you have more opportunities to share now because of this journey you've been on, learning, interacting. So I find your personal branding stories, your entrepreneurial stories, those lessons, those insights, I eat them up. And that's why you're on this podcast, right? Not that I don't follow your stuff, but there was a post a couple weeks ago when I reached out to you, right? And I commented and I was like, that's it. I have to profile him. I have to get his story. This is so good. And that's an example of you getting out on LinkedIn, saying what you're meant to say, and the right people find you and resonate with you, right? And we connected but think of all the other ways you connect with people. And even not just for business sense, you can be out there saying something, writing about something that truly changes someone's life, like gives them inspiration or hope. And that's what LinkedIn is about. It's not just writing about all business. And you do a really good job with it, Stephen. I have to say, you do a really good job of blending the business, the personal, the videos. I truly give you kudos to that. It's really good. So yeah, so I love how you've detailed that. And that's the power of it. So you must feel like a whole new person, right? Than were you working in that company. And tell us how you're feeling now and what are you doing in your company, in your consultancy?
Yep. No, definitely feeling a lot different. It was funny. I saw a friend over the weekend again that I haven't seen in a long time. And she said, I can feel how much more confident you are. And so those are special, Michelle, when it's actually people that are close to you and know you well and can see not only the change, maybe just through the words and through the posts and whatever, but to see the change in person and to actually be able to feel the energy is different. So for me, that was big, but I feel that way too, or else I know I wouldn't be putting out that energy, right? So yeah, things have completely changed. And for me, when I told you in the beginning, I needed a little bit of that courage to leave. There was something very powerful for me when I left and had my first client pay me. Just the first invoice, and then I received the money in my bank account. I won't forget it. But that day, again, I think that's what really ignited that. Not ignited it, but confirmed that confidence that I had all along and said, you know what, Steve? People will pay you directly. That means you provide value directly. You do not need an employer to put the jersey on to get people to think you have value. You yourself have value. But that's evolved over the whole entire year, but completely different place now. And when it comes to my business, now I'm working with 3 different clients at the moment, got another one coming through, and I work in my advisory business. It's larger contracts, right? So things are going really well. And this is what I mentioned a lot too, that people I think don't realize is that it's similar to my financial background in a sense that it compounds. So as long as you continue to do it, you're going to get more opportunity. It doesn't just stop. So as you grow, you get bigger and more people find you, then again, it's a game of numbers always. And I'm not saying that I'm just playing numbers. It's just if you have a community of 20,000 or a community of 5,000, you're going to get more inquiries with the 20,000 community. That's just basic math, I guess. But, that's the big change. And so the advisory business is going well. I'm venturing into some other spaces as well, trying to see what I can do because then throughout this journey, I want other people to, as we're doing right now, sharing this story, to be able to do something similar. And I mean, there's a cannabis component to that for me personally, but for everyone else, there might not be, right? So that's why I'm expanding a little bit into some other places as well. But no, a completely different person than I was a year ago, a tremendous amount of confidence. But to the point I mentioned previously, I'm still Stephen Arthur George, right? But it's always been there.
I love hearing that because you stay grounded, right? Just because you're out there doesn't mean you might get success and you forget everyone. And unfortunately, I see that happening on LinkedIn. People get a little bit bigger and you always just want to stay humble and helpful, at least for me, because I feel like that is so needed. That real, raw, relatable person like you do in your posts. And you propelling yourself and growing is so perfect that you say that. On my 7-step framework, propel is kind of my last step because it's just keep propelling and growing, building trust, community, opportunities. I love compound interest. I use that term all the time. I think I said it today in my post. It's not a one and done. It's just little daily investments that pay off continuously. So this is just so well said. And the power, I cannot tell you the power of putting yourself out there and putting it in content on LinkedIn is huge because you and I, we were in circles and connecting and maybe commented here and there, but it wasn't until that one post, like the right person, the right message at the right time, it just hit me. I'm like, I've got to explore this further. So that is just, and I'm sure you have examples of that too, for friends and connections, clients, all the things. It's just the law of LinkedIn. And I like to say it's the law of reciprocity. The more you give there, the more it seems to come back. That might be the law of karma too, but it's all good there. That's all good. It sounds like you're doing well. And what's next for you? I mean, I know you're venturing new things. Are you going to stay in Europe or do you think you'll ever head back to the US or what are you looking at there?
We'll see. I mean, I really enjoy it here in Europe. Like, this thing with the cannabis space, I'll always do this advising, I think, right? It'll always be a part of my thing, and I'll always push this industry forward, even if it's not my thing that I talk about all the time on LinkedIn, right? And that's a thing. You can be more than one thing. And like I said, this is one of my biggest battles right now, probably on LinkedIn, but it's the niche versus the not and this whole thing. And like, I came to the thing where it's not me, okay? I can do it. I know how to do it. If you want me to sit here and talk about cannabis all day long, every single day, I'll do it. And yes, I probably would get more advisory business because of it. Actually, I would guarantee it. It's not true to who I am and what I'm doing and the message that I am trying to get across. So, end of story. I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. People tend to find that people continue to resonate with that story. And so that's the story that I'm going to continue to tell. But one of the things that where I feel drawn to is, again, just like I said, I've known this all along. So that's where I'm really going, is that not only do I not want people to wait till they're 33, but I know there's people that wait till they're 70 or they wait till they're dead or they wait till they're 50 or whatever. It happens at a lot of different points. But again, it goes back to the newsletter. My newsletter is one of the things that I'm really enjoying right now doing and trying to help people. And that's my Can It Be Me newsletter, because this is what I think. I've always known I had this inside, but for some reason, whether that was childhood problems, other different things, I suppressed it, right? But then also, which led to misery, which led to depression, which led to anxiety, which led to not a happy life. And as soon as I stopped suppressing all of that and started believing in myself more and being more myself, things changed. And so that's the story I want to continue to tell. I think it all wraps into this personal development kind of structure that I have, really. But even my cannabis stuff, everything all comes back to this personal development, becoming better every single day. And that's what I'm looking to do. And that's what I'm looking to help people do moving forward as well.
Oh, that's so insightful and so touching. I can tell you're lit up about that. I mean, no pun intended, but I can feel it. Like I can feel the energy over this Zoom recording. So I love that you detail this entire story and now you're on fire even more to do this. I am so glad we captured this, right? You have just completely detailed the last 15 months, especially that evolved you to where you are now. And it's not just where you are now, but where you're wanting to go, even more excited. And so that's what I would say your message here is: don't suppress who you are, get out there and be who you're meant to be. Now, how to do that's another thing, but I know it sounds like you have a way to do that, right? Is that what you're alluding at in this personal development space?
Exactly. Yeah, there's a couple of, like I said, there's a couple of things I've done, and it's not, like I said, a lot of it's not rocket science, let's say, right? And I think it's a unique position as a male as well, because like one of the things that I found here in Portugal was starting to see a therapist, right? Which really helped me understand myself more and tackle some of these problems that I had suppressed for a long time and become more myself. But unfortunately, men seem to have a more difficult time talking about this and sharing this kind of stuff. So for me, it's all very important. And I'm just hoping that able to help a lot of people moving forward with looking more within, let's say. But it was a bunch of other tools as well. That's one major one. I think everyone deserves to talk to someone. And I was just even thinking about last night. It's just such a shame that in most places, even in places like Portugal, where you have a national healthcare system and everyone can get free healthcare, you still pay for a psychologist. So yeah, I don't know. You know, I have other thoughts on this as well, but I'd like to see people be able to access these services.
Yeah. No, that sounds good. So it sounds like you really think personal development is also tied to personal branding, but you really need to work on that pre-work before you can get out there and unsuppress and all this stuff. So it sounds like you have some really interesting things coming down the pipeline. So you piqued my interest for sure. This is exciting.
Just last thing, just to hit on that real quick, because I feel like if you're going to go build a personal brand, you're going to put yourself out there. You better damn well know who you are. And if you don't, you've got to do that work first, or at least be practicing that work while you begin this journey.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I wrote today. I'm like, don't go do those courses, credentials, certifications. Those are all good. But we at least me, I put up the stock in those, thinking that idea or the clarity, professional clarity, or the path I wanted to go on was there. It's not. You got to look inside. So this was such an important topic that you spun through your whole story. So I love how we're landing here. I know after listening to your story and the messages today, people are going to go want to know where they can connect, follow, and learn more about you. So please let us know, Stephen, what's the best places?
Yep. Stephen Arthur George on LinkedIn is where you can find me. And I post there every day, 7:30 Eastern time, as well as my website, which is stephenarthurgeorge.com. So Stephen Arthur George, if you type that in, you should be able to find me either at the website or LinkedIn.
The power of branding yourself with 3 names. I love it. So it's easy to come up that way. And then if people want to subscribe to your newsletter, that is a LinkedIn newsletter, correct?
This one's not a LinkedIn newsletter, Michelle. Yeah, interesting difference. Okay. So this will be found on the website. So you can subscribe right at the website, stephenarthurgeorge.com/can-it-be-me.
Love it. Yeah. Well, good for you. Are you doing it on email or Substack or review or something else?
Doing it on email for now. You know, I like the idea behind LinkedIn, what they did with the newsletter, but then I saw that everyone was doing it. So then I was like, I need to be a little bit different. So I went the more, let's say, traditional website, newsletter, blog style with email subscription.
Very good. Yeah, you're definitely standing out from what used to seem like routine. Now it's the LinkedIn newsletter. So I don't have a LinkedIn newsletter either. So same thing. There were just too many.
Exactly.
So yeah. So everyone, I want to encourage you to give Stephen a follow. His content is just really, really good about his journey, his story, all the things. I mean, case in point, he posted 2 weeks ago or something on this wonderful post, and it just got me so excited. And I'm like, I got to have you on the show. So there you go. That's just good recommendation there. You're going to learn something from him, I promise. So Stephen, as I do and we end up the show, I always ask the guests, do you have a personal saying or mantra or something that you've used to inspire you to get out there and build your brand or personal development? What would you share today?
I would share, and it just came to me right now, so it's perfect. But again, like I tie that all together with, like you said, this personal branding and personal development. For me, it's all very aligned. And even my writing I do every day on LinkedIn, I'm sharing stories because I want to help everyone. But what people might not realizing is by me sharing my story, I'm helping myself as well. So it's a bit of, like I said, this journey is all a bit of my personal development. And I think writing daily, anyone, whether that's on LinkedIn or in a journal or whatever, it's going to help you and you're going to become a different person by doing that. But what I would take away is about, even if you're going to do that, is again, by first know the person on the other side of the face, know who's inside and know what's inside and what those true values are and what you believe in and what you want to represent, and then go exert that to the world.
So well said. And what a way to end the show. So awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Stephen, for being here and sharing all your inspirational quotes today. It is so inspiring.
Thank you for having me, Michelle. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. Well, everybody, this one is someone who told us exactly his stories, his honest and real feelings, and shared how you can do it too. But most importantly, as Stephen says, know what is inside before you step out. So until next week, I encourage you to keep putting yourself out there because you have a brand to build, a business to grow, and people to impact. So until next time, take care. Take care. Take care. Take care.